we were already hot into our discussion here because NRG picking up the victory over Fox. We have strong opinions here about how this game went and the adjustments that these teams need to make. So let's get into it immediately. I know we have some criticisms to throw towards both teams, to be honest. Probably a little bit more towards Fox in this instance.
Let's start it off with a little compliment sandwich. We'll start off with the good stuff, then the bad stuff, then the good stuff.
Okay,
again.
start me off with something good. Start me off with something good.
I like that they picked TF in the mid lane. I really like that Froggen was on the mid lane, and we talked about it yesterday or last week that we wanted to see Froggen the playmaker. You play TF, gets first blood for the team, tries to get the team rolling. That's it. That's it for the compliment, though.
I'll lump one more on there. I don't hate the ryze pick top. We saw Huni doing it.
That's true.
I think it's fine to try and punish teams. Yeah, the gragas is a little questionable, but I like teams trying to punish if they don't think the other team plays ryze. You can get that and another good mid laner, like you said, the TF. And I like the idea of pairing those two together because you can snowball the ryze. I don't think that's the worst idea.
Right.
I think Echo Fox's macro is just
that's where things start to fall apart, is when we actually get to the execution, right? So we built a decent team comp, although we have some questions about the gragas, maybe a little bit too magic damage heavy, especially when a lot of the other top tier junglers were still available. But TF is a playmaker. We want Froggen on a playmaker. We want him to be able to affect the side lanes the same way that Bjergsen is able to affect the side lanes. And as you mentioned, ryze can abuse less skilled players just by being ranged in that top lane.
Unfortunately, it's impossible to help your side lanes if they're just freezing the entire game.
Let's get into this.
Okay, yeah, so let's dive into it. Exactly this point that Crumbs is illustrating, this is going to help. 11 minutes into the game in the bot lane, NRG's going to pick up a 3-for-0, and this is because KFO is in the top lane freezing, so NRG decided to make a play on the opposite side of the map.
The sad thing is, maokai isn't even TPing on this. He just walked to the lane.
Down there.
All 5 just walk, and there's no answer from Fox because they're freezing the lane.
Yeah, KFO has TP here. He's just sitting, clearing the wave. That wave has been coming into him for like 30 seconds. He could have thinned it out and gotten it to a side, like a good position to want to TP into fights as well as having collected the farm. He doesn't come in. Fox gets smashed in this. It's a 3-for-0, and the game is mostly over at this point. Like it's
that's a lot of gold to be
If you're watching this and you're wondering, why should you not freeze? Why should you just not accept the farm? Well, the reason is because the map right now, the way the game works, it's too easy to force objectives on other sides of the map. So when somebody forces something on one side, you have to be able to respond. And when you freeze a wave, you can't do anything. There's no answer. If that wave would have been pushed, you punish the maokai roam in the bot side by taking the top turret or presenting a dive or a roam in the top side. But when you freeze, you're stuck on one side of the map, and it's very clear for the opponents where they should be that there's not going to be a point of contention.
And for me, I just don't fundamentally understand how a team who can understand macro at all would not have fixed this issue slightly in
5 weeks.
Halfway through the season. It's been an issue since week 1. It's still an issue. Every week you can go back, watch their games, and you will see a time where KFO is freezing at the totally wrong time, not pushing at any advantage when he has them. Here he was behind. I understand wanting to catch up a little bit. Does it incorrectly again. And it's just constant. If I was in charge of this team, I would not allow them to freeze ever. Just like no more freezing. You guys clearly don't understand how to do it. We will only push. We're gonna die a lot in scrims, but like stop freezing. It's insane to me that this is still an issue the way it is.
I love how fired up you are, Mark.
As a former coach, it's just like, God, like how do you not
do something
How do you
about
wrap up the sandwich though? What's the compliment?
No. We got more. We got more to go. We get compliments on the other end. Hold on.
Yeah, we're not done yet.
I'm gonna push this forward. We got another replay. This one's gonna come about 16 minutes into the game. This is Echo Fox's attempt at a turret dive. So here they go. Froggen porting in. So 5 people under the turret.
They go on the tanks. Froggen could have gone a little further back and gone for the karma, popped her with KFO, instead of like letting the team get split. And they go on rek'sai.
All of it starts from just the composition itself, because this comp with such heavy magic damage, you have a little small window of pulling the trigger on these dives when the opponent does not have a lot of magic resistance. At this point in time, maokai has Merc Treads and Spirit Visage. rek'sai has Merc Treads and the Spectre's Cowl. There's no chance of pulling this through. If rek'sai is next to the maokai, the damage reduction is too much. This dive is never going to work. Instead, you could look for a pick with the TF ultimate. You can look on other people that are trying to collapse onto that.
Right.
That doesn't happen, and the dive just gets completely botched, whereas NRG pulls it off properly in the bottom side and punishes a mistake.
Right. This was a 5v3 dive, which was the same numbers advantage that NRG had. However, we're now 5 minutes later into the game, so we've had more time to build our defensive stats. We're also targeting the tanks as opposed to the squishies. It does not work out for Echo Fox.
I will commend the effort of trying something at least.
It's a conceptually good play.
Yes.
Right, but just didn't work out for him in this instance. Now to move to our final replay, 29 minutes into the game. This is NRG picking up a Baron as well as 3 kills here. This is kind of what allows them to really break open the game.
So I like how this all starts, because NRG just has to composition where you just want to group as 5 and force as many team fights as possible. With the Maokai that got so far ahead from all the movements on the map, it's really easy for them to commit. And Fox's just split call decision. You have Hard trying to go in the backside to steal the Baron where they clearly split off. I mean, nobody's left inside the Baron pit, so you got a Gragas trying to solo the Baron while the entire team is dying. He's like, I guess I got to just get the Baron and win the game. But we know that that Baron is not going to be enough to win the game. We learned that when we saw Cloud9 versus TL on Friday. It's not going to happen this time. Even if that Baron steal came around, the game would have most likely still gone to NRG.
Well, I mean, that whole situation was like a little wonky. It starts out with Froggen running through a mid turret and taking 5 turret shots. Has to recall, comes back and gets picked off face-checking Baron by himself. And then NRG starts the Baron, and you get into the situation that we saw.
It was a very extended situation in which Froggen pathed through a turret, didn't really notice, and takes 5 turret shots, has to back. You know, we've thrown a lot of criticism towards Echo Fox. We'll get to the compliment. But I do also want to look at NRG, because the contrast here is that, for example, in that first replay, NRG did play the macro game correctly in that instance. I'm not saying 100% across the board, but we are starting to notice that it seems that NRG, although still struggling in the larger scheme of the NALCS right now, does have a better understanding of League of Legends than Echo Fox does.
I do like that we always criticize him for these wonky little picks with the Ziggs, with the Vayne, with the Illaoi. Well, Illaoi does look good. They finally come up with a composition that is just all around very meta. You have the Karma, the Lucian, Viktor, you have rek'sai jungle, and the Maokai top. You got everything you need. You don't need to be trying out a lot of new picks. All you need to do is work on your macro game. So when you pick a very stable composition like this, it's very easy for them to target their mistakes in the macro play and fix them. So I really like this change moving forward.
And one of the players that has actually impressed this split is also going to be receiving player of the game here in Santorin, right? He received a lot of criticism while he's on TSM. This roster, though, he is finding his way into lanes more often. He is being involved, and a lot of times the impetus for these plays that they are making.
Right, and he's in the right place at the right time. He's there to protect that wave with the Maokai top, and if he's not in those spots, Echo Fox has a chance to get back into their game with this kind of macro comp. With the TF being able to port around. So him being in the right place at the right time is super important to make sure that Echo Fox can't grab those advantages, and he was never caught out himself.
Okay, now it's time to finish our compliment sandwich off with a compliment. Give it to me, guys. You promised me a compliment sandwich.
Yeah, but they took it. You guys took it away from me. I already had my 2 ready.
For Fox or for NRG? Because I can compliment NRG.
No, for Echo Fox.
I think the draft was okay.
No, that's where we started.
I can't. It's a sandwich. You got
no.
bread, stuff, and more bread.
More bread.
Yeah,
so you're the kind that pulls your pizza.
Or we just have an open-faced sandwich because we're cutting carbs.
Yeah,
right.
Just protein style.
Screw
right?
the second piece of bread. Well, ladies and gentlemen, NRG picking up game 1 against Echo Fox here. We've got a jet, but we'll be right back when we return. It's game 2 between these two teams, and it's going to hit your screen in just 3.5.